Do you start YouTube videos only to click away a moment later? Do you lose interest quickly? Maybe you're unable to focus on anything that doesn't interest you. What about when you are interested? Do you get so excited that you can't stop talking or thinking about it? Maybe you talk so fast that everyone is always telling you to slow down and take a breath. Maybe you've even been told you're too much. If you're too much, or you think others are too much, this one's for you. Hi, I'm Kylie, a retired paramedic, and this is Everyday Ambo, where I share the real-life lessons from the job. Not the easy stuff like how to slap on a bandage or insert a cannula. I'm talking about the tough stuff, the stuff we struggle to wrap our minds around, like our own inadequacies and our vulnerabilities. These are the lessons that hit hard. This is lesson number 16, keep it at ground level. We all have times when we struggle to focus and we get overstimulated by our emotions. We get tired, distracted and busy, and we also get inundated with too much sensory information when there's a lot going on. But here's the thing. We all have different levels of tolerance on what we can wrestle with, or what we consider too much information. When you are trying to focus on a task and someone interrupts and it leaves you feeling frustrated, do you hide those feelings? Can you hide them? Do they burst out beyond your control? Or can you calmly express how you're feeling about being overwhelmed? As a paramedic, we are always in busy environments with a lot of people with high emotional intensity. We have to focus on the tasks of our job while being constantly interrupted by more information of an emotional nature, be it bystanders, family members, or even our partners. We have to be able to control ourselves. We are not supposed to yell and scream, show our fears or our frustrations, and we aren't allowed to cry or be sad when a scene warrants it. We have to focus our attention and contain our emotions. That's hard work. Some paramedics have the patience and tolerance of saints, others not so much. Some start off as saints and become something else altogether, and we are judged according to this ability like it's a skill or a talent. Here's the funny part. We all have a breaking point, and you never know what will be the defining moment or test. Why is that funny, you ask? Because it can be the funniest thing that tips you, something that normally seems small and insignificant in comparison to everything else. Everyone thinks it's the big stuff that breaks us, a child's death or something horrible that happens. It's not. It's what happens after. The small stuff, like a name call or an insinuation, and that's why it's funny. But of course you won't realise the humour until much later. Much, much later. The not so funny part is that once you tilt, there can be no coming back from it. The floodgates open and it all flows out. Of course, it does stop eventually, when it runs dry, but that can take years. Which raises questions. Why do we tilt? Why can it be that we can't rein it back in again? And what do we do about it? There is a theory called self-organised criticality, and it describes how complex systems naturally evolve to a critical state where even a tiny event, like the last grain of sand, can trigger a massive, unpredictable cascade. It makes sense. When foundations are built for one purpose and something else is built upon it and continues to be built upon, there will come a critical state, a point of tipping, a cascade as it all falls back down to ground level. When humans don't process and store their emotions, the emotions don't go away. They pile up in the compartments of the mind, the brain, and the body. They put pressure on the foundations, the structures, all the boundaries, and the seams. When the pressure is on, there are warning signs that the boundaries are breaching. They leak. And just like if you squeeze a lemon, lemon juice comes out. An emotional squeeze comes in the form of emotional outbursts and frustration. Releasing the pressure takes the load off the structures. The problem is, most don't vent adequately because it's not sociably acceptable. The consequences are a critical state within the complex system and an unpredictable cascade. Think about it. A cascade is an avalanche of everything that piled up or got stuffed down. Unpredictable means it'll be a surprise. It shouldn't be a surprise what comes out. But when it comes, that's the surprise. Are you ready for what's coming? Do you even know what's expected? I can tell you, you're probably not, and you don't. Because you can't know something if you have never experienced it. It's that simple. So what's happening when you can't rein the emotions back in again? There's been a shift. When you are angry and you can't hide it, when you are sad and you can't stop the tears, when you're excited and you can't contain yourself, or maybe you're jealous and you can't stop that either. When you can't control your emotions and rein them back into a sociably acceptable presentation, you've lost the executive function of the prefrontal cortex. As social animals, we need to be socially accepted. It's not a choice or a nice thing to have. It's a human necessity for survival. Not because there is safety in numbers, though there can be. Our brains are hardwired for deep social connection, and with that, all the motivational drives and brain structures needed to create it. When we are not accepted by the group, we are driven to find acceptance along well-worn neural pathways. This drive has developed the prefrontal cortex, and it's what sets humans apart from all other animals. The prefrontal cortex is the master controller of our social behaviour, and why we are the master controllers of the animal kingdom. Without it, we can't control our emotions, our behaviours, our social relationships, or our animal hierarchy. In fact, without it, we have no control of anything. Like a free-fall skydive through a full spectrum of emotional experience. Here's the thing. Skydiving can be fun. It can also be traumatic and messy without the appropriate safety measures in place. And realising you are falling without the parachute? It's of little value once you are falling. What are the options now? When you are falling through an uncontrollable emotional cascade, you'll learn a lot about the skills you've come to rely on in life. You'll learn as you try them all out and find that none of them work to stop the avalanche. You'll beg, you'll plead, you'll apologise, and you'll try and wheel and deal. You'll do everything that you can to try and manipulate the experience, to no effect. There is nothing to grip or to grasp a hold of. Nothing works. What I learned was that once you realise this and stop trying, the fall becomes pleasant. For me, I could feel the ground approaching. I could also feel that nothing was going to stop it arriving. That is the moment of peace I believe that we are all looking for. That is happiness. A fleeting moment between two harsh realities of life and death. So, can you take a leap, free fall through time and space and an avalanche of your repressed emotions? Experience the full realisation required to find the place of unrestrained happiness between living and dying, without actually jumping out of a plane, hitting the ground and dying? Yes, you can. I've done it. You just have to be brave enough to jump. And if you're not, that's okay too, because life has ways of pushing you, and once you are falling, the rest takes care of itself. The thing about emotions that everybody needs to know is that while overwhelming at times, they rarely kill us. But they can lead us into deadly situations where the prefrontal cortex master controller turns off and leaves us without instructions. Humans have done such clever things with the benefit of the prefrontal cortex. They have built planes, parachutes, and relationships to jump tandem with. They have also provided opportunity to be up in the sky, where no humans have evolved to be, where the prefrontal cortex is completely useless, and so is the primitive mammalian brain, who never grew wings to support us. We are so darn smart until we realise we don't have wings and we should never have been in the sky to begin with. But it's too late then. What do you think? Are you brave enough to jump? Are you smart enough to do it at ground level, where your brain has evolved to get you out of the trouble when needed? Get involved in the conversation. Tell me about a time you jumped, unrestrained, and lived to tell the tale. We all avoid difficult emotions. Some of us even avoid the consequences of doing it for the long haul. But we all have a breaking point where we lose the restraint of those emotions. But we don't all do it above ground level, and we don't all die as a consequence. So, with an ADHD brain that I didn't even know I had, I learned early on not to rely on my prefrontal cortex. I also learned to chase dopamine, which meant I had to learn to keep it at ground level, where I had the necessary skills and anatomy of survival. This was pretty lucky, because trauma has the same effect on the prefrontal cortex. So when my massive unpredictable cascade occurred from the weight of the job, I had some pre-existing skills up my sleeve. And the ground wasn't too far from my face. So if I can impart any wisdom, it would be keep it at ground level. See you in the next lesson.